Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Lampworking 101.73. Today I wanted to explore the Quatrefoil, and the Quatrefoil is just 4 dots that make up this base pattern. You can take it as far as you want to or keep it very simple. Either way, it's going to look great as a design on your bead. If you are in need of some inspiration, maybe this is for you. And I just wanted to say thank you all so much for your well wishes last week. Patrick and I are definitely on the road to feeling better. And with that said, let's go ahead and get right into this. I hope you're all doing safe and well out there as always. Thanks so much for joining me, and we will see you next time in the dungeon. Okay, I'm going to start this bead out with just a lot of white. This is going to be the base for my bead, and the white that I really enjoy using is Quatre white number 204. It's a great white, pretty much the only one I use. And I'm going to start out, like always, by adding about an inch or so of glass on my mandrel. I just want to add as much as I want the bead to be long. And when I get there, I will roll it out so my edges kind of puff out around the mandrel hole. And you know, if you want to, you can pull them back in a little bit, but that's kind of where I start everything out. And this time, instead of adding discs, I'm just going to add as much white, you know, nice and tight along the length of the bead. I'll do this a couple times to build up the amount of white that I want. And then in between adding the white, I'll just kind of keep the shape looking as nice as I can, melting it down. So when I add the next amount of glass, I'm not trapping any air bubbles or anything like that in there. I can't say if one technique of building up a bead is any faster than another technique. It just kind of depends on how you feel at the time. And you can see the shape that I'm going for. I'm almost creating it right here. I do go over the edge just a little bit, but that's okay. I'll make up for it on this side. So a lot of it is just trying to balance out the color from edge to edge. And if it looks sloppy like this does, never fear. It's all about heating nice and evenly around the whole bead, and then just all I like to do is really kind of start to push it into my shape. A lot of times I'll start on the edges because I know when I heat the center of my mass of glass up, it's gonna round out. So if anything, you know, I'll shape up the edges a little bit and just go from there. And after lots and lots of heating, we have our base bead ready to go. Okay, now let's go ahead and add 4 dots with a thicker stringer. And I'm using a dark grass green for this. And the cool thing is that the grass green, or most transparents, are gonna be slightly stiffer than the white. So I have a little bit more control over how much these are gonna melt out. So I want small, tiny little dots. Try to make each one of them as even as possible, and when you have 2 right next to each other like this, then go ahead and add your bottom and your top dots. If your pattern at this point is not working out, then, you know, just experiment, play around with something different. Don't stress out. No matter what, try not to stress out. This whole bead probably took about maybe 35 to 40 minutes. Okay, so after I have all of these dots placed, I will very gently start to heat and flatten all of these dots. I cut out a lot of this because it does take a good 5 minutes or so just to flatten this pattern out. And then at the end, you know, even here you notice that the white is heating up a little bit more than the green, so it does take a while for this pattern to melt in. But once we have these 4 dots, and you like the way they look, let's take it a step further and add a small white dot on top of each one of those green dots. You know, I like this bead because you don't really have to think too much about color choices. If you just have white and then 2 transparents of the same color but a different lightness and darkness, then you're going to have a great color pattern for the bead. It doesn't matter if it's 2 blues, 2 greens, 2 pinks, 2 purples, it will look good. It's not always easy coming up with a really great color pattern or color theory on your bead, but hopefully this might help you. So on top of these white dots, I am going to add the lighter of the grass greens. This is like the lime, kind of, it looks lime green, but it is light grass green. And when I add these dots, you know, I'm just very gently grabbing a little bit of heat and rounding out the end of the stringer and then placing it down. Everything happens really close to the flame. Well, I'm getting behind myself. Okay, so now that you have the 4 dots and the white and the green dots, let's go ahead and add 4 larger dots using just a regular size rod and place those dots in between the patterns on the top and bottom of the bead. Take your time when you add your glass. You want to make sure that every time that you add one of these dots, it's right where you want it to be. I wasn't feeling really shaky when I made this, so I was happy to be able to have a pretty close pattern here. It's pretty even. And this is also the light grass green that I'm using here as well. I've been looking at a lot of different Victorian wallpaper for design, if you can tell. It's really been helpful, especially finding the Quatrefoil pattern. So here's where things get interesting. You don't have to, you know, do this, but it does give the pattern a little bit more interest. So I'm going to flatten these dots down with my knife, and as I flatten them down, I'm just kind of leaning it towards the center of the bead. And that's going to give it a little bit of a shelf or a lip on the edge of that color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my stringer, my transparent stringer, and I'm going to heat each dot up individually. And then I'm going to come down and very gently grab the bottom half of that bit of color and pull very gently towards the center. I'm going to do that on every single one, so it's a really nice heat. Make sure that the whole bit of color looks almost white hot, and then bring it down, grab it with your stringer and pull. And then to release it, just give it a little wiggle. Don't try to like wrench it off or break it off. Just give it a little wiggle until it releases itself, and you'll have a nice end to that bit of color. I love the way that this begins to frame out the Quatrefoils. And you can definitely see the wallpaper influence coming through here. I didn't do anything here, don't worry, I was just checking. Just checking. And then we're going to repeat everything on the other side. And like I said, if you don't feel that you can get to this step, no worries. Just continue on with what you have and, you know, either add more dots on top of these dots right here, continue with your pattern. I wanted to do this part as well in real time because I wasn't feeling that shaky today, and it is very mesmerizing to me to just be able to sit and watch the glass move. It's just really an amazing thing. Don't overheat any of these dots, like don't overheat too much around it. All right. It's looking good, you guys. I'm happy here. So let's go ahead and just kind of push the edges of those down just a little bit. There is a lot of texture in this bead. Nothing is completely smoothed out. I do like to leave the bit of texture. It's just really nice to feel in your hand. It looks cool too. And I give it a nice reheat. So now where those lines are connecting, I'm going to just add a small white dot. And then I will also add one in the middle of each quatrefoil. This is obviously also a really great way to make small flowers, is using the quatrefoil, because that's where it comes from, you know, just from, I think the permission flower has a quatrefoil, or the permission fruit has a little quatrefoil at the top. Or you could do the obvious and go with the clover. Yes, I know St. Patrick's Day is coming up. This could be a perfect bead for that. So I've added the white dots where I need to, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a heat. You know, you don't want to forget to heat the bead. You always want to keep the bead happy and warm, even if you have to stop with adding your dots and give it a little heat and then continue again. So at this point, I'm just melting those white dots in and really really making them nice and soft. And on top of those, I'm going to add the opposite color of the green. So if it's the dark green, then I'm going to add the light green. And here it's going to be the light green, so I'm going to add the dark green. Again, this is going to look great no matter what two transparent colors you use. All right, you know, and I do say this often, but I really enjoy working in the middle of the mandrel. I don't think I could make a bead this nice if I was just hanging out working on the end. And so I'm really thankful to know this technique, the mandrel in the middle, or the bead in the middle. Anyway, if you want to see how I put the bead release on, you can look at the playlist for everything Flameworking, or the 101 series. It's the very first in the 101 series, is how I put the bead release in the middle. All right, we're almost done, you guys. All I want to do now at this point is finish everything off by adding that dark color, the black. And I'm back to using kind of a thin stringer here, and I'm just going to add a little black on top of those white dots in the center, and I will go ahead and place them around the bead as well, and that'll be it. All right, I'm almost done here. I just want to add some more. You know, I never really know where to actually stop when I'm working on something like this, especially if it's coming out really nice. I could just keep going, but I have to like tell myself, okay, you know, add a few more dots and you're done. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add a couple more dots on the very top and very bottom. A lot of times when I'm adding these dots, I will have my pinky finger wrapped around the mandrel, and that kind of helps to stabilize my fingers, and it really is helpful. Ugh, that didn't look so good. Fortunately, the dot still came out okay. All right, you guys, that is it. That is our Quatrefoil wallpaper-inspired bead. I hope you all enjoy. We'll see you next time.